Mentioned you're in the gym 5 days a week at the moment, but you are doing things differently than you did prior as
Mhm.
far as volume and intensity even is concerned. So let's break it down. What's the split look like?
I've run the same split since I started working with AJ. Actually, it's a 5 day routine, and so I have two push sessions. So, I start out, for example, Monday is my first push session of the week. Tuesday is a pull session, and it's basically no lower back loading for that session, just like chest supported movements, but it's pull session. Then I'll do a leg session on Wednesday, and so that is quad, hamstrings, and calves, a little bit of everything there. And then Thursday's a rest day. Friday is another push session, a little more shoulder focused. And then Saturday's back and hamstrings and glutes. And then Sunday's a rest day. So yeah, that split has been a setup we've run since we started working together, and it has been great.
The push session on the second rotation. So you got push, upper body, pull, upper body, and then legs. Then you take a day off. Then you got push. Is it just upper body or is it a full body push, meaning you add legs in there as well?
Just upper body.
Okay.
The pull session is just, back biceps, some rear delts. So like it's chest supported back movements, bicep work, a little bit of rear delt isolation, a little bit of traps as well. And then the back and hamstring session is I have, some back, but that's also where I'm loading my lower back on that session. So for example, I'll do Romanian deadlifts on that session, and I was doing barbell rows on that session. Now I'm, switched them out to doing dumbbell rows, but yeah, some more back work, and then, hamstring and glute work. So I'll do like glute drive machine, for example, to hit glutes a little more. I was doing, two hamstring isolation movements, like a seated and a lying hamstring curl as well on that session, a little bit of biceps as well on that session. But yeah, that's the session where I'm loading the lower back. And then, like on that first pull session of the week, it's just chest supported back movements for that session.
To keep the low back fresh before leg day.
Yeah, yeah, and then even for legs, with my leg session, I'm really not loading the lower back too much on that session because we started just using hack squats as my
Mm.
main quad movement there. So hack squat. So for example, that session, I'll just for the heck of it run through it. But we'll start out with like a seated hamstring curl. Then I'll go into like adductor machine, and then or actually. I guess my prep brain is hitting me. Seated calf raise, and then an adductor machine, then leg extension, then seated hamstring curl. Then I'll hit my hack squat and leg press, and then end off with a little bit of abs. But recently, during prep, whether it was a smart idea or not, I started actually doing some dumbbell split squats at the end just for the heck of it. But during the off season, I wasn't even doing them. So that was just something for the heck of it, I guess, wanted to do.
So it's not because you feel like you need the extra volume for your legs or anything of that nature.
Well, maybe mentally I felt like I needed it, even though it's like I'm prepping, so it wasn't really necessary to do. Maybe that was something that was not necessary, but it wasn't like I was doing a ton of extra work there. But yeah, it was just I guess something for fun.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So for that leg session, like I said, I decided actually typically I was doing the calf raises, later in the session, but I actually started switching them to the first movement just because, after doing the other movements for a leg session, who wants to do calves? So I just start out, with them and then go into the adductor and then leg extension and hamstring curl. And I feel like for me, once I started doing that and getting used to it, I felt like it was good. I felt like my legs were more primed going into the hack squat, actually. I'm not doing the leg extensions right before the hack squat. So it's not like they're super pre-exhausted, I guess you could say. I'll, hit the hamstring curl and then go into the hack squat, and it actually feels pretty good. I actually enjoy it once you get used to it. And like I said, I am taking longer rest periods as well with this setup, just being more intentional with each set.
Mm. Sets per exercise, is it typically two per exercise, two working sets, if you will, a top set, down set for mostly everything?
For most movements, yes. Maybe for a few movements like arms, for example, maybe I'll do a few extra. But for most movements, it's, like a top set, back off set approach for most movements. Yeah.
For the push day, how is it looking right now?
So, I have two different push days. And so, like, the first push day of the week is a little more chest focused. So, for example, I'll start with a lateral raise, and typically I'll do like a lateral raise machine and start with a lateral raise, go into a low or actually a high incline press, like a high incline dumbbell press, then go into a flat chest press, and then a chest fly, and then a compound tricep movement. So typically like a close grip press, and then I'll do some tricep extensions and overhead tricep extensions. So a little bit of isolation work there. So that'll be like my first push session. The second push session, I'll start out with dumbbell lateral raises, for example, an isolation movement again for the side delts. And then I'll go into a low incline press, like a low incline dumbbell press, then a high incline variation, and then I'll go into another side delt movement. So like single arm lateral raises, single arm cable lateral raises. So like for that section, I'm doing 2 side delt movements there, and then I'll end off with tricep extensions, overhead tricep extensions, a little bit of isolation work for the triceps. So those are, the 2 different push sessions I'll do. And then like the pull session is not loading the lower back. So for example, I'll do like a lat pull down, which will be, a lat focused lat pull down on like a neutral grip handle, and then I'll go into an upper back movement. So typically just like a chest supported T-bar row. Then I'll do like a lat biased row. So like for right now, it's been like a cable row, like a lat biased cable row, and then another upper back movement. So I'll do typically like the seal row. I love the seal row. So I'll actually do that. So that'll be like my back movements for that session. Then I'll hit an isolation movement for the traps. So shrugs, typically like Smith machine shrugs. And then I'll go into a bicep movement, so like cable curl, and recently I've been going from that to a rear delt fly, and then ending off with like a hammer curl, so giving the biceps a little break before I hit them again to finish off the session. That's the pull session right there.
Let's back up for a second with the push days. You do the lateral raises before the presses. Do you find that negatively impacts anything at all with your presses in any way?
Not really.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty good. Actually, I did forget to mention for the first push session, I do actually hit calves as well on that session. I hit calves twice a week, but I actually hit calves on the push session and on the leg session.
Gotcha. Now, for the amount of presses you're doing, so 2 sets a piece, correct? Same kind of concept.
Typically, yes. Like a top set and back off set.
About 12 to 16 sets on average, hard sets. So you kind of fit right in between the generalized guidelines then of what you're typically doing on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and like before I was doing with my old approach, I was doing so many more sets. So, and I was seeing results that way. Hard to say what's necessarily better, but I know for sure my recovery is more on point now just by managing the training volume. So yeah, that's for sure something that's made a difference.
You're doing less volume now with higher intensities of effort doing this approach than the past, and you're arguably more in an advanced state than you were in the past as well. But what would you say as far as growth is concerned, not necessarily on a performance side, because I'd be curious about that as well, like lifts going up, maybe you're feeling things better, your recovery's better, but yeah, would you say you put on muscle doing less overall volume?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've definitely put on muscle that way. I put on muscle both approaches. So I think, in the past I was a lot more or a lot less mindful of like actual recovery per body part, and now, with the training approach, by really managing the amount of volume I'm doing and getting more out of each set, I don't have to do as much volume to get the same effectiveness. And I think it depends on the body part too. I think there were, maybe some body parts in the past with my past approach where maybe I was doing the right amount of volume for that body part that it could recover from, but there were other body parts maybe I was just doing way too much. And so now, things are more accounted for.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah. And the recovery is a big thing, I think. So that's a win for you in that regard, right?